Good morning, everyone. This is Dan, and this is the Napkin Academy. We're going to be continuing our journey through the book Show and Tell, and today we'll be talking about storyline number 3, which we will come to know as the pitch. The simple idea that I want to cover with you today is this. When it comes to our presentations, when we want to change an audience's actions, when we want to change what they do, we use the pitch. That's what we do. Here we have a drawing of a young teenage girl, and here are her parents. Now, this has something to do with my life at home because I do have a teenage daughter, and this is me, and here is my wife. And our daughter is very, very smart. And so what our daughter might do is come to us on a Saturday night and say something like the following. We all want me to be a really happy, well-adjusted kid. Right, Mom and Dad? Isn't that what you always say to me? And we, the parents, are saying, yeah, where is this going? And then she might say something like, well, look, it is Saturday night. I have an idea. How about I go to the movies with my friends? Well, you guys stay here and relax. Maybe have your glass of red wine. Take it easy. Don't worry about me. So in order to do that, why don't you just give me $40 and permission to call my friend Amy, and we'll go out and see a movie. And yes, I promise to take my phone so I can call you if there's any problems. Now, what have we just seen there? We've seen a very typical example of a Saturday night in any household that has a teenage kid. But what we actually saw was a sales pitch. This was an example pitch that we might give the name, this was the stay up late on a Saturday night pitch. And here's what our daughter, our teenager, did. She established with us a set of common ground, meaning, hey, we're all in the situation together, aren't we? And the situation we're in is you want me to be a happy, well-adjusted kid. But we have a common problem. It's a Saturday night, and it's going to be boring, and I won't be a happy, well-adjusted kid if I just stay at home. So I have a solution. The solution is, why don't I go to the movies with my friends, and you guys can stay here and relax and not worry about me. And if you like that solution, the action that I need you to take, says the teenager, is pretty simple. Give me a little bit of money and give me permission to go out. And then there's something at the end which is called the hook that makes it really sink home, just like when you're out fishing and you want to pull the fish in. She says, yes, I promise I'll take my phone. So that's what I mean by a pitch. Now let's talk about how pitches fit into extraordinary presentations. We all know that every extraordinary presentation we're going to give is going to do 3 things. The first one is it's going to tell the truth. The second one is it's going to tell the truth through a story. And the third one is it's going to help to tell that story with pictures. Now this issue on the truth, boy, is that a slippery slope, isn't it? Because we know that there are lots of truths, and all truths are not equal. Well, if you've been with me over the last couple of sessions, you know that when we talked about our first storyline, we talked about the report. The truth was really in the data. And then last time we talked about storyline number 2, which was the explanation, where we talked about the truth that exists in our head. What do we actually know? Well, today what we're going to be doing with the pitch is really emphasizing the truth that exists in our head, the things that we know, and starting to push it just a little bit towards the truths of things that we feel in our heart, the things that we believe. And why is that? Because as our storylines become more and more influential, we're moving up this pyramid from the data to what we know to what we believe. And this week, we're going to sit right about there. Rule number 2, of course, we're going to tell a story, so I'm going to go through the review super fast. The reason we tell stories is because good presentations always have a clear storyline, something that all of us can follow, and that storyline is not endless, it is not confusing, and it is not random. And I emphasize this because so often as we're making presentations, we tend to veer into things that are too long. We tend not to have a good storyline, so things become confusing, or we have no storyline at all, and our entire presentation becomes apparently very random to our audience. None of those are going to happen when we use a storyline. As we know, just about every presentation we're ever going to give is built on one of 4 storylines. Today we're going to be talking about the pitch. So the storylines we're talking about, the presentations we're talking about today are things like a job interview. Why is that a pitch? Because I'm selling myself. Or a sales pitch. Well, why is that a pitch? Obviously because I'm trying to sell something. Or a product launch. And why is that a pitch? Because I'm trying to get people to buy my product. I'm selling something. Every time I know that I'm selling something, trying to get my audience to change their actions, I'm going to give a pitch. This 4 storylines, we know. The report a couple of weeks ago, pretty much flat, a little bit of information. The explanation took us and our audience from some knowledge through an increased amount of knowledge, increasing our ability to do something. Today's storyline is this. We're going to start with some common ground and a common problem ahead of us. And the pitch is going to allow us to leap over that problem and convince people to leap with us. And then, of course, next week, we'll do the drama, which is going to be almost the inverse of our pitch. But today, we're focusing on the pitch. Why is the pitch important? Because as we know, there are basically 4 essential ways we can help to change our audience. We could change their information. That was the job of the report. We can change their knowledge or ability. That was the job of the explanation. And today, we're going to try to change their actions. We're going to take people that are perhaps standing still, and we're going to motivate them to move. We're going to motivate people to change their actions. Do something that they weren't doing before. We're going to use the PUMA. The PUMA, of course, is our storyline that says presentation's underlying message architecture. That's where we got PUMA. We start with our main idea. We build a spine that carries our idea through our main storyline. Our legs become our supporting information and anecdotes, and the hook is the last little swish of the tail. 4 PUMAs we've met. When we did the report, we met a resting PUMA. Our explanation was our climbing PUMA, and today, I think probably one of my favorite word combinations ever. The pouncing PUMA is the pitch. This is the PUMA we're going to do today. All right, let's meet this pouncing PUMA. Storyline number 3, the pitch. Our PUMA jumps. Let's talk for a moment about what a pitch is. A pitch is a way of making a presentation where we pose a problem and a solution, but it does require some persuasion. Our audience is saying a little bit, convince me. We all may start here, but in order to move up here, we have to take this jump and we have to do it together. So with our pitch, what we really want to do is change our audience's actions. At the end, we want them to do something that they were not doing before. The pitch works by getting us over some kind of a hurdle. This hurdle we'll come to see is really our common problem. And if you think about it, just about every time there's something that involves sales. So that could be a presentation on the sales floor, something in the boardroom where someone's trying to convince someone else to fund them, a client pitch, a venture capital firm pitch. Those are all pitches because they're all really intended to change someone's action. That action might be, give me support, do something new, give me money, or do something different. So every time we see a sales pitch, that's obviously going to be a pitch. A dog and pony show. What we mean by that is someone coming in and showing off their wares. Well, that's a pitch. Gentle persuasion, like the teenager trying to convince her parents earlier to let her go out on a Saturday night. That's a pitch for sure. And ask for money. Anytime we go and ask someone to help us financially, or in many cases when we ask someone for help at all, we're going to be giving them a pitch. And certainly when we're launching a project, it's a pitch as well. Let's talk a little bit about how a pitch actually works. We make a pitch by first establishing common ground. What I mean by that is, let's say this is us over here, and we've got something new that we want people to use. And here's the people that we'd like to use it. We have to establish that we are on common ground, that there's something in common between us. And what often that thing that's in common between us is we have a shared problem. Perhaps there's a big hole underneath the ground below us. And what we have is a new solution. Maybe what's in our little box is some kind of a bridge that goes over that hole. And we need to get this person to cross that bridge with us. That's what a pitch does. If we are convincing in the way we do this pitch, what we'll find is that our audience over here buys the bridge that we're selling and walks across it to us or with us. They take the action that we've recommended. Now, In the old days, pitches, sales, was something that we might want to call hardball. What I mean by that is, it used to be considered that if you're the salesman, your job is to really pitch a fastball at this audience that you're trying to sell something. Because you know what? We've got something that they need, and it's really us against them. And we need to convince them. We need to sell them. We need to get them to agree. So we're going to do it kind of hardball. Well, the problem with the hardball approach is it pits us right from the beginning against the person that we're trying to convince to join us. Well, that might have been a nice analogy a long time ago, but that doesn't work anymore. Today, the pitch is much more like a softball pitch. That is to say, I'm not trying to knock you out, audience. I'm actually trying to help you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to help you by establishing that we're on common ground. We are both trying to win. This is what we're going to call a win-win style pitch. This is the way things work today. Now, why is this? Because more decision influence is on our audience than has ever been true in the past. So if in the past we had a lock, a monopoly on some particular product, we could afford to do fastball pitches to our audience because they had to get it. No longer the truth. They've got more information, more options, and more opportunities than ever before. So we better make sure, as the person who's pitching the ball, that we're working with our audience, not against them. Good pitches all follow this arcing storyline. We start here with something we're going to call the wind-up. The wind-up is just a quick summary of where we are. That's where we establish our common ground. And then we have the hurdle, right about here. This is that common problem that we were talking about, that we say we're in this together. Then we provide a vision for how we think it's possible to get past that problem. And then we provide a couple of options, maybe two options. Here's one option, and here's the other option. These are ways that we might be able to together get past that problem. And then we say, but between these two options, you know what? This one's really the better one. And then we do this thing called the close, which is why we really say why this is the better one of the options. And we convince someone, we show them, because we're in common ground, that that really is the better option. It almost becomes undeniable. That, by the way, was the option we wanted from them to take right from the beginning. And then we have the fine print. We can't avoid it. This is, okay, you know what? We want this particular solution. But you know what? It's going to involve some things that we have to do, some actions that we have to take. Perhaps some money, perhaps some change, perhaps some action. And then we conclude it with this thing we call the hook, which is after we've gotten through the fine print, we want to remind people again, ourselves included, of some additional added benefit that maybe we didn't even think of as we went through the rest of this pitch. So that's the storyline that every pitch follows. I'm going to repeat that. That is the storyline that every good pitch follows. There are modifications, but there are no exceptions. I want to show you a couple of examples. A very straightforward sales pitch. Let's say the company is Kalupa Coffee, and what Kalupa wants us to do is come into their coffee store and buy some of their coffee, because that's how they stay in business. The common ground that Kalupa establishes with us is something like this. You know what? We'd all love to feel energized and awake, wouldn't we? But the common problem we have is we're tired. We're just dang beat. But we've got a big day in front of us. A solution, you know what? Kalupa coffee, it's steaming hot and it tastes like heaven. What's the action we want you to take? Come on in and buy a cup of Kalupa. And what's the hook? Well, as long as you're in here, the Wi-Fi is free. This is exactly the pitch that is used by every coffee company, every restaurant. It's exactly what they do. And now let's look at another pitch. And this one, perhaps not so softball. This is the best pitch ever. This is Steve Jobs, of course, rest in peace, back when he was trying to convince us to buy an iPhone a couple of years ago. And the name of his pitch was, guess what? Phones suck. And here's what Steve Jobs did, and this is, he could afford to do it. He would say, you know what? Here's what we really want. We want to keep in touch, and we want it to be fun. That's why we really want phones. But you know what the problem is? Mobile phones suck. They're terrible. They don't work. They've got too many buttons. They're too complicated. The plans are too complicated. They're terrible. They get in the way of us doing what we want, which is keeping in touch and wanting it to be fun. So what's the solution? How about if we can buy a phone and a music player and the mobile internet all in one device? And by the way, that device is easy. What's the action? Get an iPhone. What's the hook? Well, from Steve Jobs, says get it now. Be the first to have one, because that's going to make you so super cool. Those are pitches. And if you think about it, if we go back just for a moment to this pitch storyline, as I say again, any effective pitch, any sale can be built off of this storyline. Let me show you a big one. The big example we're going to do, something we've talked about in the past a little bit, we're going to talk about healthcare. Healthcare in the USA. Going under lots of changes right now, and I want to show you a pitch not about healthcare, not about health reform, but a company that has been impacted by healthcare reform. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do the practice pitch, and I want to set up the scenario for us, and this is very verbal, so we'll do a visual version as well. But here's the scenario. Who are we? We are a senior technical engineer at a large health care company. We're the people who design and build the computer systems that keep this company going. What's our idea? Well, this. Look, healthcare reform in the United States is happening, and as it becomes reality, we need to make changes in the underlying infrastructure of our business systems. And these changes are expensive. But if we don't make them, our company will not be able to support further growth. And who's our audience? We need to convince senior management within our company to go ahead and fund us as we begin to explore the possibilities of how we might change this infrastructure in order to keep our business alive. So you know what? In other words, another way to look at this is we've got to sell. Yes, indeed, we have got to sell an expensive but necessary long-term change to a group of very stressed executives. And why are these executives stressed? Is because healthcare is a mess, and changes in it are even worse. So here's what we're going to do. A little hint to make this not such a terrifying pitch is this old axiom: a spoonful of sugar helps the nasty medicine go down. So what we're going to do is talk about the nasty medicine, and we're going to help these stressed executives swallow it with a little bit of sugar. Here we go. As we've done before, parallel paths are going to happen as I walk you through this pitch. I'm going to show you what the slide looks like, and then I'm going to tell you what the accompanying verbal narration was that went with that particular slide. And at the same time, we're going to show exactly where in the pitch curve, the pitch storyline, we are with each one of these slides. So you'll see how the pitch gets built literally page by page. Okay, so here we go. Good morning. Good morning, colleagues. Thank you for letting me share my team's thoughts on the need for an integrated data strategy. And now we're going to go into the wind-up, where we establish common ground. You know, today we know this. We act as three separate businesses. We've got our hospital business, we've got our doctor group, and we've got our insurance company. Okay, see? Common ground. Pretty simple, very visual. Next slide. We're still in the wind-up. We're still setting the common ground. Although we're three different businesses, we all serve the same customer. Now, depending on our business, we may call that customer something different. We might call them a guest, or we might call them a patient in the hospital. We might call them a member for the insurance company. And now our last part of establishing common ground. Let's just make sure we're all speaking the same language here. Next slide is, but the fact is we all see that customer a little bit differently. Our hospital group sees the customer one way, our doctor group sees the customer a slightly different way, and our insurance group sees the customer a slightly different way as well. And from the perspective of the data we collect, we all see that customer a little bit differently. Some of us are collecting health data, some of us are collecting financial data, some of us are collecting lifestyle data, etc. And now here comes the hurdle. What's out there that's going to change this world? Because things have been working so far. Well, here's what it is. Our common problem. External forces, powerful forces, are forcing us to look at that customer in a new way. And those forces are healthcare reform, new care management strategies being put upon us, value-based purchasing, new models that hospitals and healthcare providers are buying services, and bundled payment systems. These are enormous forces that are acting upon us undeniably, that are forcing us to look at that customer in a new way. And that is the problem we face. If it weren't for that problem, we could have just continued doing what we were doing all along. But this problem is going to force us to make a change. So now we're on the other side of that problem. We're now saying, well, so what's our vision? Well, here's what our vision is. They're forcing us to act as one business and to share all of our data seamlessly. You know, wouldn't that actually be a good thing? That's our vision, to act more as one business and share our data. Interesting. Now we're moving on. Well, so what are some options? What are a couple ways we might be able to do that? Well, there are two options. From a data perspective, each of our businesses has certain areas of expertise. Our hospitals are really good at this sort of data collection. Our medical group is really good at this sort of data collection. And our insurance group is really good at this sort of data collection. So one possible option, as we need to pull this data together, would be to support each group, each part of our business, in building out its own complete data center. That's one possible option. But remember, we're looking at options, and we need to provide a better one. Here's a better option. What would happen if instead of growing 3 platforms, we actually just grew one that was broad enough to support all of the data needs of the 3 different groups? Wouldn't that be interesting? And now let's talk about the close, because clearly option 2 was better than option 1. It's immediately obvious because of the picture that we drew. So now let's talk about the close. So what does this actually mean? In order to do this, we'd need to account for 4 things. We'd need to account for the individual business needs. We'd need to account for individual employee needs. We would need to account for the individual business processes of each one of our groups. And we'd need to come up with this common platform that was flexible enough to support all of them. So this is where we're in the close now, because this isn't going to be easy. But it will be great, because there's an ideal outcome if we were able to do this. If we could pull this off, what it would mean is we could have a more expansive, commonly accessible data platform, ideally useful for each one of the groups on their own, also available to each group as they start to look for data from the other groups. And guess what? The whole thing could be supported by a single shared staff, which saves money from the 3 platform option that we have now. Interesting, isn't it? So here's the fine print. This clearly looks like a pretty good idea, but let's be honest, it's not going to be easy. It's probably going to take about 2 years to do this. It's going to cost a little bit of money today, but you know what? If we don't spend that money today, we will lose that money tomorrow. The process is going to be tricky, because we're going to have to go through a rather painful phase of implementation of this new platform. So it's going to be uphill for a while until we get it operational, and then it's going to be easy after that. And it will require us to take a pretty in-depth look at how we actually operate. But nevertheless, and here comes the hook, the piece at the end, the final aspect of why this is the sale that we need to make. You know what? If we're able to do this, and our group believes that we can, we will have become the first integrated healthcare provider in the country to have been able to put these pieces together. And think of what that will mean in terms of our competitive advantage and our ability to be successful in the future. And that was the hook. So there you have it. That was the entire pitch. Here is every slide that was in the pitch. The whole thing was done in, what, 13 slides? I can count that high. Not too many. And here's the way those slides mapped back to the storyline. We started out with the wind-up. And remember, this is like our puma, right? So here's the spine of the puma, and here's the legs about the wind-up, and here was the big problem, and here was the vision, and here's the options, and here were the pages that made up the close, here was the fine print, and here was the hook at the end, just like our pouncing puma. So let's do a quick report card. How did we do with this particular pitch? Did we tell a story? We did. Did we change our audience's actions? We did, and I'll tell you why in a moment. And is the new action one that benefits both us and our audience? It absolutely is. Because in this particular case, and how did we do? Well, we did well. Because remember that we were the technical people in this organization, and we needed to convince the executives in this organization. And anything that is helping us is going to help them because we are working together in the same organization. So what happened is with the pitch that I just showed you, with that pouncing puma, we were able to convince those executives to go ahead and make the initial multi-million-dollar funding investment to go ahead and start to build this common infrastructure, which had not been something that they wanted to do prior to that. Few final thoughts on this idea of the pitch. One of the reasons for our softball pitch that it works is the key is to establish this idea of the common ground. Again, we are on the same plane and in a shared world with our audience. The reason that's important is because remember the whole idea of the pitch is we're going to try to convince our audience to change. The problem is people do not like to change, but we need them to make this change. The best way to do that is to say we are in this together. And in order for that to be meaningful, if we're trying to get people to change something so that it helps them fix a problem, we have to speak truthfully ourselves about that problem. The point is, why is common ground important? Because if we want to sell a solution, we have to first truly prove to this person who's sharing the problem with us that we know what the problem is. And this is the number one reason why sales pitches fail, is because the person who's trying to make the pitch has not actually lived the problem that they're trying to solve. And therefore everything just comes across as a hardcore, hardball sales pitch, and we don't like it. Another thing that's interesting about the pitch, all presentations sell if we look at it from a strictly mercenary perspective, but only the pitch places the sale front and center. Look, the report that we talked about a little while ago, yes, it sells someone on some new information. The explanation sells someone on some new abilities. The drama, which we'll see when we talk next time, is going to sell someone on emotions. But it's this pitch, this place where we are right now, in which the sale is really the point. And you know what? That's okay. And why is that okay? Because if this is us and this is our audience, and if we let our audience know up front that we are trying to sell them something, and if we are upfront about that, they won't mind. The reason why pitches go badly and fail like that is because we didn't let the person know, however subtly or truthfully, that we're trying to sell them something. And the moment they figure that out, they get very unhappy and they hang up the phone. Last thought to keep in mind about the pitch. This will make a lot more sense after we've seen the drama next time. The pitch is always a push. There's always us trying to get someone to do something that they don't do. It demands that we push them. Now that's not a bad thing, not at all, because if we do the pitch well, if we follow our storyline, if we establish common ground, and we go through this together, the push is okay. Often we need to push people to do the things that would be good for them. The drama, as we'll see next time though, is the draw. There's us, and what we're going to do is we're going to draw people towards us. And this is going to require a very different sort of a storyline. The pitch looks like this. The drama is going to invert it and look like this. And we'll save that for the next time that we talk. Quick homework. Many of you have been doing your homework as we've been going along. Just as an update, what I plan to do is when we've finished all 4 storylines, we'll go ahead and we'll have an entire session where we present your work on the 4 storylines. To help prepare for that, I'd like you to do Pouncing Puma pitch storyline for the homework. So for next time, what I'd like you to do is imagine this scenario. Simple one. You and your friend always eat lunch at the same place. You and your friend always eat lunch here. I would like you to draw a Puma pitch where you help to sell your friend on trying a new place for lunch. Include the big idea, the storyline, and some supporting points. Put it as a PowerPoint or a simple little set of drawings and go ahead and post it to the showcase. Hey, thank you all for another great lesson. This is Dan signing off from the Napkin Academy, but don't go away. Now on our new platform, you can still submit your homework. Debbie, our community manager, is going to join you right now to show you exactly how to do that, and I really encourage you, do your homework. Okay, take it away, Debbie. See you soon.
We hope you enjoyed this Napkin Academy classic video. We've made it easier than ever to share your homework. After you've completed your homework and have a JPEG or PNG file saved on your computer, come back to this course. Once you're back here, scroll to the bottom of the screen, and in the comments box, you can add a comment. I'm just going to call this one My Homework. You can also add images by clicking on the Insert Edit Image button here. In the source box, click on the file. In the Images window, click on Upload, and then click on Add Files. This is going to take you to your computer where you can search for your images. I'm just going to search for mine in Pictures, and I'm going to choose this image here. You can also add multiple images here. Click Upload. After the upload is complete, click Close. Then scroll down, and you'll see that the last image is here, and it's checked. This is the one we just uploaded. Click Insert. I suggest in the dimensions box you change the maximum to 1200 pixels and leave the constrained proportions box checked. You can also add an image description here if you'd like. Click OK. You'll see that your image has been added to your comment. And now the last step, the most important one, make sure that you click the green comment button here to upload your homework to the Napkin Academy. We hope to see your homework soon.